I don't know. I feel like the cold open is the way to go because then you don't have to be on, you know? All right. That was the cold open. Cool. Hell yes. Welcome back to the Lil RES podcast, also known as the Ray Gun Emergency Signal Podcast. Watch out for those ray guns.
Pew pew.
It is October 5th, and it is, can you guess? It's room temperature outside. I said it. It's going to stay room temperature. It is still room temperature. I don't know how long that's going to last, but that's the world we live in. Those room temperature climates, damn them. Anyways, here's the gnocchi of the day, wherever it is on the screen. She's sitting on her chair once again. If you're a recurring listener, you're probably realizing gnocchi has some spots she likes, and she does. And she's not in the room, unfortunate. And finally, here is the hat of the day. It is an O2 hat, which means 0 wins, 2 losses, enough to get you eliminated from a double elimination bracket. I got that one from jisoo.gg.
Nice. And how are you doing today, Harrison?
I am doing. I think I'm doing pretty well. I'm getting back into the routine of things. I've gone to the gym multiple times this week. Great, because I haven't been going to the gym. Um, I think it's so dumb, but it just you do the things that people say make you feel better, and it makes you feel better. And I don't mean that in like, oh, I was a sad and now I feel better way kind of feel better. It's just like strict gains in rate of happiness or state of happiness. um, what else? Yeah, I think I'm pretty interested in the video I'm working on right now, which is great. And honestly, I don't think I have too much to say. I'm doing well. I'm getting back into the swing of things. How are you doing, Richard?
Yeah. Kind of the same here. Just been settling in Seattle. Went to a concert last night and
Hmm.
have some pretty action-packed weeks ahead. So life's just life's just kind of moving. It's good. No complaints here.
Who did you see? I know who he's seeing,
Queens.
but for the viewers.
I saw Queens of the Stone Age, which they were originally founded in Seattle, which I did not know.
I actually didn't know that either. That's interesting that that's like not a common, because you know the Seattle bands, like everybody knows, like, oh, Nirvana, right? Or like Jimi Hendrix, but yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and Dave Grohl has been an on and off drummer for them. But I
I
feel like you
also
could
did
say
not
that
know
about any
that.
rock.
What the
Yeah,
heck?
I feel like you could say that like so many rock bands have had Dave Grohl in their like lineup at some point in time. He's
Yeah,
just like iconic.
that's funny. Dave Grohl is his own person. He cannot be put inside of a box. He just
So
drum.
the lead singer Josh Homme, do you remember the thing about him just like absolutely like curbing like a lady filming him at the foot of the stage? Do you remember when that was big on the internet like
Wait,
5 years
he
ago?
did what? He curbed her?
Oh, like he like kicked he like kicked her camera basically. It was like all over Reddit
I
and
have
stuff.
not seen that actually.
Oh, this was like 5 or 6 years ago. Yeah, I think he's in a better place now. He was like pretty happy during the show, but
That's
he's
good.
pretty infamous for being like a generally miserable person.
I see.
So,
Interesting.
um, it seems like he his most recent album was about acceptance, and
Oh, okay.
everyone was saying like, man, like he was in such a good mood, and I'm just like, I've never seen him before. I only like debated going to this show because my friend went, and
Mm-hmm.
I've been into Queens of the Stone Age for like less than a year. So I'm just like, oh, that was a good show, and everyone's like, you were blessed, and I'm like, I guess. It just feels like another like Wednesday night to me.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah. It goes back to our earlier conversation on one of the pods about uh, suffering artists. You can make something
Yes,
beautiful
true.
that people like and be miserable. Um, and sometimes those are intertwined. Anyways.
Real.
Oh, yeah. Did you have anything else you wanted to say?
Nope, all good.
All right, cool. Thanks for sharing, Richard. Um, uh, okay, we should say this because this is a special activity episode. It's not that special, but we haven't done an activity episode since the first episode, the dry aged licorice experiment. And today we're playing a game that we've actually already done, but it was on one of the episodes that had technical difficulties. Richard has curated a selection of emojis for me, and it is my job to guess what the official Unicode name of each emoji is. We'll include them on the screen and I'll also describe them for audio listeners. We'll do that, let's say 15, 20-minute mark. You can keep time.
All right, yeah, sounds good.
Cool. I'm
Yep.
I'm excited. I liked this game the last time we played it. It's just fun because I don't know. We don't actually know what emojis are called. We just call them what we want to call them. Um,
Exactly.
but yeah, let's see. What any agenda items stick out to you?
Mm,
Let's start spicy. I'm gonna start
let's do
spicy.
it.
I'm gonna read it verbatim. Quite possibly, one of the most powerful litmus tests ever is whether or not a person actively expresses their dislike for jazz. Right off the bat, Richard, do you agree with this statement?
It is it the expressing dislike that stands out to you, or just the dislike of
It's
jazz?
the active expression. Active expression. So not
Okay,
somebody asked
then
you.
yes,
It's like
yes,
you chose on your own volition to tell people you don't like jazz.
yes. That would definitely stand out for me, because if you don't like jazz, like, I feel like that in itself is a little bit of a test. Maybe, maybe not. I don't
I
know.
think
I'm a jazz enjoyer, but I
yeah.
can also understand someone maybe just like wanting like a lot more noise, or like, or maybe they just haven't explored the genre. But
Yeah.
like, if you're like almost expressing pride on not liking jazz, that's a very valid distinction.
Yeah. I just feel like okay. I think a lot of so there's like different levels of jazz almost, right? Like if you like you could put like smooth jazz, like Kenny G. I feel like he's like the entry level jazz, right? Like nothing about how he plays his jazz is particularly defiant of maybe standard music practices, if you will. Not to say Kenny G is not an incredibly talented musician, but he's less out there, right?
Yeah, he's conventional, which
Yeah.
is fine.
But I feel like the way jazz works is that it's kind of like a ladder of novelty where like you start hitting this sweet spot and getting into the stride of what is like really interesting jazz when it starts sounding like very different from other music you've heard. But to get to that point, you have to have listened to a lot of jazz to have like a better appreciation for the more I don't even want to say like complex jazz. It's just that like if you hear Thelonious Monk and you've already heard other jazz music but never anything that sounds like Thelonious Monk, it's like really stimulating. At least it is for me. You're like, whoa, it's like so um, discordant and stuff. If you've never listened to Thelonious Monk, you should check him out. I think he's awesome. He's a piano player, jazz pianist, and he plays so the way he plays like doesn't make sense, but the more you listen to it, the more it does make sense, and it's so weird. But I totally understand that not appealing to somebody who hasn't explored the genre, like you said. Um, but I think my thing with this is that I always, when I see something new that other people are into, my assumption is always, oh, there's a lot of depth and complexity in this thing that I just don't understand yet. And I feel like those who reject jazz and are proud of it, especially, um, are taking an opposite belief where they see something they don't understand why other people like it, and they go, other people like it because they are lesser than me, because this is a simplistic or a messy or ridiculous thing, and I am not a ridiculous, messy, or silly person. Um, I just think it's a very negative perspective of the world, to not and I don't know why, but I feel like jazz is the main target of this. Do you agree? Like, or have you seen this? What I'm talking about? Like, I feel like of the like popular music genres, the one that I see the people say is like not music enough the most is usually jazz. I guess country gets a lot of flack, but
I was gonna say country too, but yes, go on. Sorry.
I think country, okay, I'm a little bit of a country hater, but I need to be very clear that when I talk about country and when most people talk about country, what they actually mean is country pop radio, which is a complete, is very different from country, right? It's not the same thing. Because like country as a broader genre obviously has a lot of interesting music going on that is still being innovated on and worked on. But country radio, especially country pop radio, rehashes the same formula so freaking aggressively and has for the last like 20 years that I get why people aren't into that anymore. I feel like of the pop genres, country innovates the least. But maybe that's not true.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's how I feel though.
No, I think if you were to take a poll of people and you were to ask them what has more depth of the popular songs out there, 99% of them would say jazz music over country.
Yeah, yeah. But
So,
but yeah, but I don't assume that but here's the thing, I don't go around telling people I don't like country because I do think there is good country music out there. I just don't like country radio.
yes,
And
valid.
yeah, and in general I don't know. I don't want to be one of those like music people. It's like, oh, I listen to everything, but that is how I feel because at this point I feel like I've listened to enough music where it's like, oh, every genre has redeeming qualities and something interesting going on if you look for it. So doesn't mean I listen to everything evenly. I have my clear preferences, but I feel like at this point in my life, if somebody thinks a song, if somebody's like really into a song and I trust their opinion, I'm like, okay, I'll listen to it, whatever it is. I might not like it, but I'll definitely check it out.
This has got me thinking too about where you draw the lines on genres. We had a kind of
Yeah,
similar conversation around food.
yeah.
I was like, in my head, it's going to take a little bit of explanation, but like, is Old Town Road a casserole, but not an American
Okay,
casserole?
Old Town Road is like not actually a country song in my opinion. It's a country
uh,
coded hip hop song. Like if you listen to
right.
the lyrics and the cadence, it just doesn't match country. Um, and this is semantics. It doesn't actually matter. But the sample is also it's from a Nine Inch Nails song. It's not the sample's not a country song. So
True.
again, that doesn't matter. Like you can take a genre and turn it into another genre. But I genuinely don't feel like Old Town Road is a country song. It's just country themed. Um, but it doesn't sound like a country song to me at least.
Where genres start and begin still continues to elude me.
Yeah. Well, it's
I can get a general idea, and if a song like pretty firmly fits the bill, like I definitely have an idea. Like, but I've also been surprised in the past where like someone's like, "Oh, it's actually this genre," and I'm like, "Huh."
yeah. I mean, I think at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, right? Um, but also like I think it also I think it matters and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in that like what genre something is, there's no correct answer to it, so there's no need to argue over it, kind of. But also like taxonomy is important for helping us think about things. It makes things that are
Yeah,
complex simple, and that's good because we can't think about too many things at once. Um, but yeah, it's weird because I don't know, like the way I describe music, I think is I mean it's extremely biased to the genres that I've listened to the most. But I also think I have this weird thing. I think because we're pretty musically aligned, I describe things in genres that like if I check the Wikipedia page, the genre I said something is usually matches what's on the Wikipedia page. And to be clear,
yeah,
I don't think that means I'm right or anything. But I think for whatever reason, I'm in line with whatever metrics Wikipedia uses to define
yeah.
genres. Like
Makes sense. Are you listening to enough music too, where you kind of, yeah, you get a feel for like what the industry wants to box things
Right,
in
right,
as.
right. Yeah, yeah. It's more like a meta awareness of how people who need to categorize music, and less about what the actual qualities of music are. Because like I was talking to my girlfriend yesterday, and she was like, "Oh, what genre is Fleetwood Mac? Like, isn't it like folk or something?" And I was like, "I actually would say Fleetwood Mac is like a pop rock band. It sounds folksy in like contemporary terms, but like for the time that music was made, I think it was more rock." And specifically very pop. Like the music, I think still has pop qualities, but especially for like older music, I think that would have had a very poppy sound. And then I checked Wikipedia and it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, pop rock, along with other genres, right? But I don't know. I don't know. Again, I don't think that makes me right. I don't think there is a right answer, but that's how I do it apparently. How long have we
And
been
then
on this? Should we move on?
yeah, we can. And we're time for the emoji game actually.
Okay, cool. Let's hop right into it then. Have you sent the first one?
Let me go ahead and send that over right now.
Let's go.
Yeah, because we
I
both
like
are
talking about music a
passionate.
lot, and I've been thinking I really need to up my like music theory and stuff. Um,
Mm,
because I would like to start making music at some point, but it feels so risky. If like career wise, it feels risky because music is like one of the most oversaturated. Basically, what I'm saying is I want to make music, but I don't want to make music and have it be like a career move. So it's hard to justify sinking a lot of time into it right now. But
mm.
anyways, Richard has sent the first emoji. We've all seen this emoji. I have no fucking clue what this emoji is called. I'll describe it for audio listeners. It's that like circle that has like three heat waves like emanating from it. I mean, I've always thought this is like the grilling emoji, but it doesn't. The fact that it's a symbol and not like an object means that it must be referring to something specific, I think. What do I call this emoji? I think there's two options. Know what the actual thing is, but I don't know. And the second one is that Unicode emoji names are usually very literal. So is this red? Okay, here's the other thing. So Richard sent the picture and it has all the different versions of the emoji across different platforms. And it's interesting because you can see there's a very consistent three squiggly lines. It's always three, it never changes. And that really makes you wonder, is that part of the name? All right, I'm going to say, is this three red heat lines?
That's it's a good guess, but this
Okay.
is actually one of those non ultra literally named ones. It's definitely it's referring to
It's a
something.
reference one? Okay, yeah, yeah.
And yeah, I used to think this was like a symbol for like a hot drink or something like that
Yeah, it looks
because
like
it
a
looks
hot
like
pot or
a
something.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But you have to think back. I'll give one hint.
Okay.
This is in reference to something definitely involving liquid, and you have to think to what country most of these emojis are based out of, especially the symbols.
Okay. What are the odds that I actually know this? Are they high?
Pretty low, I'd imagine.
Okay. I'm going to guess. I don't know. I'm not going to guess. I don't know, Richard.
All right, it's hot springs.
Oh, hot springs?
Yeah,
Oh, this is like the conventional symbol for a hot spring?
I actually have no clue.
It
I
must
should
be, right? Because
probably
it's
have
so
Googled it. Right.
specific.
Yes, yeah, yeah. But what I liked about this one is like a lot of these emojis are very Japan specific
Right.
and like very like like a lot, not Japan specific, Asia specific. So it's just cool to see culture like because hot
Mm,
springs are everywhere over there. They're like I was literally in a hot springs park in Japan when I visited, and
mm.
like it's so big over there, and so I think that's just very cool and unique.
Nice. All right. Next emoji. Let's see
Yes.
it. Let's see it.
All right, this one is also interesting. This one
Okay.
currently, I think it's more recent because it only has two.
Yeah, there's only two. Can you tell me what platforms this is on?
Yes, I can. This is on, scrolling up to the top of the chart, browser and sample.
Okay, so these are probably not implemented yet. So for audio listeners, it's obviously a mermaid or a mer person. Here I'm gonna try and zoom in because it's a little bit small. Zoom in, zoom in. I'm gonna lean in. All right. Yeah, I mean it's a person that's half person and half dolphin or whatever it is. But you wouldn't have picked it if it was just mermaid. I don't think. And okay, the thing that's getting me is that these two emojis are making different poses. The first one is kind of
Mm.
like arms out, but the second one has arms crossed. So anything that would describe their action doesn't have to do with anything like that. I'm just gonna say mer person.
That's exactly right.
It is. All
Yes, it
right,
is.
let's go.
All
You gotta get
right.
some meat shots, meatballs in there, huh?
It what would have been a bummer is if you only had one of these emojis, you wouldn't have known that it. I think the fact that it's contrasting is also kind of interesting.
Yeah, yeah, between different, yeah, they're not all, yeah, you're getting different flavors of emojis. Okay.
All right, here's a classic.
Okay, this one's I mean, I'm pretty sure I know the name of this one. So it's a person who's sad and there's a single tear coming out of the corner of their eye. Um okay, I want to try and get this as specifically as accurately as I can.
Hmm.
Is it sad single tear?
It is not. I'll give you a hint.
Okay.
After sad, there's a but. There's a story behind this
Wait,
face.
it's sad but something.
Yeah.
Wait, all right. That's so yeah, okay. What happens that makes you sad but only sad enough for a single tear? Um
Or it's not even a tear.
oh, is it a sweat mark?
Is it?
Is it? Oh, sad but relieved?
Yep, exactly.
Wait, that's it. That's it exactly?
Yep, sad but relieved face, but I'll
Sad
give
but
you
relieved face. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it.
The tear indicates relief. Oh, like a
Yeah, because you see,
whoo.
it's offset. It's like a sweat drop,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's the woo. It's the woo, but it looks like a tear.
doesn't it? Yeah, because there is like
Right.
a I think there's a single tear face as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's like the tear is closer to the eye, I think, actually. Um,
Yes, it is for sure.
Interesting. All right, next emoji.
Yeah, I love that name. It's like this. You're
Sad
sad,
but
but like
relieved.
you're like yeah, like what a very specific emotion to
Yeah.
convey.
Okay. I mean, this one is Santa. Is it Santa?
It is not.
Okay, okay. Well, it is Santa, but what else would you do? How else could you do? Well, okay, it's not Santa because there's no beard actually. Now that I'm looking at this,
Mm.
it's a man or a woman or a person. Because emoji is very particular about gender. I know it's very particular about gender. So if it's not expressly male or female, it's a person. Um, it's a person wearing a Santa hat, but they don't have a beard, so it's not Santa. Is it Santa's helper?
It is not. You'll never guess this one, so I'll just tell you the
Okay.
name. It is MX clause. It is a gender neutral clause.
That's so interesting. MX Claus. Yeah, 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 yeah.
So, and that was, I also thought it was very topical with the mer person as
Yeah,
well.
mer person. It's
It's cool to see this stuff like kind of reflected in like societal, like as we keep advancing as a society, this these views and stuff being reflected within Unicode.
within
It's
Unicode.
very cool.
Yeah, Unicode I think is quite. They feel quite progressively slanted, which is interesting. Because Unicode, I think the people who make emoji votes, I think a lot of them include like tech companies and stuff. So it makes sense that they would have a more progressive lean, because that's like part of their corporate identity.
Yeah, that
Not to
makes total
suggest there are not
sense.
people also who care about things involved in Unicode, but it's just interesting to see how that manifests, huh? Um, Wait, it specifies MX clause. That's what they chose instead of like non-binary clause or
Correct.
something.
It's the X could be the R, could be RS, could be. I guess
Right,
that's the
right. But
thinking
that's the
there.
that's the wording they chose. It's kind of
Yep. I
interesting.
was like, when I first saw that, I was like, wait, is this Mexican Santa Claus? What does Mexico Claus have to do with this? And I was like,
that's
oh,
that'd be so funny. Mexican Santa Claus gets its own emoji.
ho, ho, ho.
All right, all right. Last one, last one. We've all seen this one. It's the both eyes pointed down, sad frown, and then inwards eyebrows to indicate more sadness. Um, what emotion is being conveyed here? It's like anguish, disappointment, something like that. Can you can you tell me how many words this one is for the key words, for the important words?
For the keywords, it's just one.
It's just one word. Okay.
Yep,
I'm
just
going to
one
go with
adjective.
what's that?
Just one adjective.
Just one adjective. I'm going to go with anguish.
Ooh, not too far off. There's no quote unquote negative connotation to it, I would
Okay.
say.
Let me think. Let me okay, I'll do one more. Anguish but not negative. Uh uh Anguish is close, but it's not a negative adjective. Hmm. Hmm. I don't know. Calm.
Uh, it is a pensive
Oh,
face.
pensive. That's interesting. This is not. I don't think I would think pensive, but
Right, I agree.
it makes me wonder how would you communicate pensive? I guess I would have the brows turned in a little bit more furrowed. Um,
Yeah, I agree.
Something like that. Well,
But
sorry, go on.
I was gonna say you weren't too far off with because anguish is like and it's
Yeah,
extreme, and
yeah.
pensive is like extreme thinking, kind of.
Right, right. I think anguish is like a negative. It is kind of like a negative form of being pensive. It's like pensive is just generally thinking hard. Anguish is like thinking hard about bad things almost. You're like swept up in it. But anyways, 1 for 5, not bad. I'm curious if
Not bad at
anybody got
all.
any of these besides Mer person. But thanks for preparing these, Richard. I will edit them in post, I guess. I'll just use the
Amazing.
images you gave me. But cool. All right, back to agenda items. I think we have. We'll go for another 15, 20. Um, okay, okay. Oh, it's always hard, so hard. Okay, a lot of things to talk about today. We're not going to get through all of them. I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with the quotes pilled agenda item. Um, so I've never been a huge quotes person because I've always felt like quotes are a little bit. I mean, they're very constrained in what you can do with them, And I feel like oftentimes when you hear a quote, it's somebody whipping it out to justify something, even though a quote is not evidence or proof of anything. If you know what I mean, um, like somebody will do something and they'll go, "Oh, ends justify the means," and you're like, you saying that actually does literally zero like to justify what you just did. You know what I mean?
For
you
every quote and idiom,
there's an
there's an
opposite
exact
one.
opposite
Yeah,
that
yeah.
proves that quote unquote says something about the exact opposite approach.
Right, right. And so like I think I've always been a little not resistant to quotes, but just kind of like apathetic to them because I'm like, oh well, anybody can say anything. But recently I was so do you know Borp the melee player, Richard?
I do not, but that's a good name.
Okay, that might ring a bell once I explain. Borp is a melee player who is famous because he does not employ any advanced techniques. He doesn't L cancel,
Oh
he doesn't
wow.
wave dash, he doesn't do any of the advanced techniques, not even the simplest ones. But he is a surprisingly competent player. Like he has some shockingly impressive wins against very skilled players as someone who doesn't use any advanced techniques. And Borp has a website called Philosophical Treasures, which is not exclusively, but mostly a collection of quotes that he thinks are important to him. And I've known about this website for a while, but the other day, for some reason, I was just curious about it. So I went to philosophicaltreasures.com and I was just like reading through some of the pages on there. And as I was going through it, I was like, you know what? I would never tell these quotes to somebody as like, oh, these are like rules of life or this is like how you should go about things. But relative to my current beliefs and philosophy about how things are, it is very helpful to see ideas packaged in a very succinct way that can help give clarity or help me think about my existing beliefs in more depth, right? Like it's less that these quotes are revelatory and are telling me something I've never heard before or I've never thought, and more that they're helping draw a circle around thoughts and ideas that I've had but didn't know how to like think about or articulate very well.
They help you hone.
Yeah, they helped me hone. Because it's like it's giving form to something. And there was one quote in particular that I really liked that I'm going to read because I think it's in a meta way is relevant to what I just said. I sent you this quote earlier this week, but I'll read it right now. If you really want to find out the meaning of a word like Tao, you can't expect a shortcut like a definition to tell you. To understand its true meaning, you must sample hundreds and thousands of cases in which the term is actually used. After you've done this, you might try your hand at being clever and framing one single definition to cover this whole multitude of cases. And then emphasis, but even if you succeed, how utterly empty your definition will be to those who haven't tried your concrete experiences of actually living through this philosophy. I don't personally care about Taoism that much, but I don't think this quote is about Taoism, although I think Taoism is an excellent example to use. But this quote made me think about how what you externalize into the world is always going to be it is never perfectly encapsulated of what you want it to be. And as other people consume it, they will always be reinterpreting it in their view, right? Oh, Ave, sorry, you gotta go. We're recording right now. um, no, I thought the channel name would indicate that this is a live podcast, but apparently not. For viewers, somebody joined the call who was not ready to be recorded.
It's hilarious.
What was I saying? Oh, but yeah. I specifically love the part that's like, even if you succeed, how utterly empty your definition will be to those who haven't had your experiences. Because it's true. Because whatever you're trying to put down is just you're interpreting it through your own lens, but nobody else has your lens. And maybe it will work for other lenses, but some ideas are just too nuanced or too abstract to really be explainable. I think a lot of things are. And at best you can just get at the gist, but for somebody to truly understand, they have to do. They have to experience. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good quote, and I don't know. I think one of the things for what was it that caused that shift of you to start internalizing quotes more? Was there a specific moment? Was
No.
there like no? It just okay, fair
I was
enough.
like, oh, Borp. And then I was like, oh, Borp's website. And then I was like, I never checked that out. So I'll look at it. Yeah. There's no
Fair enough.
catalyst. Well, okay.
Okay.
I will say this. I think for the past like year or so, I've been pretty philosophically apathetic. I've been pretty politically apathetic. And I've even been, relative to how I normally am, kind of pop culture apathetic as well. I've been very self centered, I think. Um, but I guess not self. I've been. I say that, but then I guess personal philosophy is very self-centered. Anyways, doesn't matter. Um, but recently, I've been like, okay, I think people who spend all of their time worrying about philosophy or ideology and stuff are a little too navel gazing. They're spending a little too much time looking inwards and not thinking about the reality around them. And I don't want to be one of those types of people. But I haven't updated my like belief system in a more thoughtful and critical way for a while. I think a lot of how my beliefs have developed in the past year, maybe 2 years, is through like more like latent changes through having different kinds of experiences, which I think is important and big. But sometimes you just need to sit down and think, what do I believe? What do I think? What do I believe? And I haven't done that in a long time. So I think that coincided with when I decided to check out philosophicaltreasures.com.
Awesome. I used to not really be quotes pilled either, probably because my parents always loved quotes, and so I'm like, oh my gosh, like stop.
Yeah, your
Like
parents are very quotes people.
and there's a quote about quotes where it's like it's kind of relevant. It's like advice is just recycled nostalgia,
Yeah.
and and I kind of feel that way. But every once in a while, like I think a couple of years ago, I know this hasn't been quite your experience, but I got on quotes for a reason that if you're like in like a challenging or tough situation, certain quotes can just really cut through and really
Yeah.
resonate powerfully in ways that other just like talking about stuff doesn't.
Yeah, yeah.
We love our little mantras and slogans, and it just sometimes like they just the right one comes at the right time. And if you were to hear the exact same quote a year later, you'd be like, "This does nothing for me," or a year earlier, you'd be like, "Also does nothing." But the right time in the right place, a quote can really do a lot.
Yeah, because a good quote is like a very succinct packaging of an idea. It is interesting what you're talking about. Like I feel like one thing is that I have just had to have more life experiences for a lot of quotes or just like certain ideas to be meaningful to me. For the reason of the like Tao quote. It's like a quote to somebody who doesn't have like the right experiences to triangulate it means nothing. Like I think a lot of the things that I was finding interesting or compelling on Borp's website would have meant almost nothing to me like 10 years ago.
Mm.
Or I just would not have it would not have meant the same thing to me now. Um like yeah, I think it's hard to just tell people, "Oh, think this," because when you're saying that, you're actually saying, "Here's a tiny slice of what thinking this actually means." Um and no single phrase is going to give you all of those uh mental models and beliefs and
Yeah.
ideas and emotions. But yeah, so I think I'm quotes pilled now, but not in like but I still don't think I would go around telling people quotes as much as I would be like, okay, what are the quotes that are useful for me.
Right. Or like you hear something and you're like, all right, yeah, that, like I'm to refer to this for later, or like I'll write this down.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There
Uh,
was another quote on, not a quote, but there was a piece of writing on Borp's website that was something like, I forget what it was, but he was talking about how like a quote can be really profound to him, and then he tries to explain it to like a family member or something, and they just don't get it. And then he had a quote to
yeah.
explain that feeling, and I thought that was so funny.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last thing I want to say about this is I wonder if because to a certain degree, certain aspects of the human experience are universal. And when we're younger, we're potentially more cynical and we've lived less experience.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we're quote unquote getting older and we have more experience, maybe just quotes in general, we're approaching the age where people that are saying these quotes have like had that experience or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, nobody told me how sick it is to have a large body of life experiences. I don't feel like this idea was ever. You know what you hear all the time is, oh, you feel like a kid your entire life. No, I don't. I don't fucking feel that way. There's clear sections in my head where I stopped feeling juvenile.
For
Like,
sure.
I don't know. I don't know. I get what people are saying. What they're saying is that there's not a special moment where you become an adult. It has to slowly come to you over time. Um, and the entire time your brain is going to be the same old brain. It just iterated on over and over again. But I don't know. I feel like I'm getting wiser and wiser. And I don't want to act like I know how everything works and I can tell people, but relative to like what I need to navigate life, I definitely feel more equipped as time goes on, in large part because of how many different experiences I've had in different facets of my life. Um, it makes me honestly, it makes me respect older people a lot. um,
Awesome.
yeah, it's just that not all older people honed the skill of communication.
Yes, yeah, because medium really matters. Like
Yes, yes, you can
how
be
and how
wise and
and how
not
you
know how to
express.
say it to anybody.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. Well, we only have like 10-15 left, so let's choose one or two more topics to finish off on.
Sounds good. Okay, here's a quick one. I come up with the agenda items over the course of the week. By the way, Rich, we need to get you on the train of you adding your thoughts to the agenda items as well.
Oh, true.
Because I think it would be nice for you, even if we don't even talk about it. Just like if you have a thought, you can write it down, and then you can come back to it later if you think it'll be interesting. Um,
Good call. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I'll start keeping that note in the back of my mind.
yeah, yeah. But anyways, back to this. So I thought of two bad habits I have this week. Bad, and then in parentheses I wrote, but ultimately harmless habits. um, and this
Mm-hmm.
is what they are. So the first one, I thought this one was really funny. But it is a thing I do a lot. Is if I'm looking for something that I need for a situation, in my head I will call it a thingo. I will go, oh, I need that thingo. Um, and then if somebody asks me, oh, what are you looking for? I get like I like can't get off of the word thingo, and it takes me like a minute to be like, oh no, this is what I'm looking for. But I just keep going. Like I'm like look, I was looking for the little like what is it called? See, now I'm on
That
thingo.
dingo.
What is a thing that you strap around your waist called to carry something? Do you know what I'm talking
A
about?
fanny pack.
Yeah, yeah. I have like a little fanny pack for running, for like my phone and stuff. And I was looking for that, and my girlfriend's like, "Oh, what are you looking for?" And I was like, "My thingo. I need my thingo." And I've done this before, but it's silly. But I don't know. It's because I know what it means, and it's good enough for me. I don't know. It's a weird habit. And then the second one is whenever somebody mispronounces a word in a way that like sounds interesting to me, I will reflexively out loud repeat the mispronunciation. Um,
You've definitely done that to me many times,
yes,
especially when because I love purposefully mispronouncing words.
yeah, yeah. I do it all the time. And I think for people who know me, they don't care. But I've done it to like people I don't know well, and I always feel guilty because I'm like, now I look like a dick. It looks like I'm correcting them or making fun of them, you know. But it's genuinely like, oh, you called like Ivers the Ivers is a restaurant in Seattle that serves like fish and stuff. Like, oh, you called Ivers Evars? And then out loud I go Evars.
Evar.
Like it's I've never heard that before. I want to hear how it sounds coming out of my mouth. But those are my bad but ultimately harmless habits that I remember them because I did those things this week. Um, all right, and excuse me. Let's see what's next. Oh, unless there was something that caught your eye, Rich.
No, no, all good.
Um, okay, okay. Some of these are big, so we'll do another shorter one. The I am returning to the routine I had before I was crunching, which is great. But there's always this latency to getting back into a routine for me that is like a little bit annoying. I don't know how to put it. It's just like you're like, I was doing this thing so consistently, like going to the gym or whatever, and then I stopped, and now to get back into it, it's hard. Or it's like yeah, it's harder, it's slower. And I guess there's not a big idea there besides oh gosh, it took me like a week and a half to get back into my routine. Maybe even longer. When did I guess the video was like 10 days ago, so like a week and a half. But I don't know why I'm saying this. I guess I'm just saying something that happened to me. I'm assuming this happens to everybody, right? Like happens to you, Rich?
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And it can, I don't know. I think one of the things that's really hard about routines is like when you're off of them, you really miss them, but you don't always realize just how much benefit they provide you until you start getting back on them as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the other thing. It's like there's this weird like why can't the brain really internalize that like some things that you don't want to do, you actually do want to do? What's going on there? Why is this discrepancy happen? Seems inefficient. Like the classic one, right? Kids hate baths and then they love baths once they're in the bath, right? I think I was the same
Yeah.
way.
that
Why?
that meme that the meme of like me waiting to get into the shower or whatever. It's like, oh, I hate this. I'm so cold. This is like horrible. I don't want to step in water. And then me in the shower. Oh, just vibing.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. And then there's the reverse one with there's like it's the stock photo of the girl and she's like daydreaming. It's like me thinking about playing RuneScape, and then it's a
Oh
picture of her
yeah.
like totally distressed, and it's like me actually playing RuneScape. Why
You're
do we have those
reversing
too? What the heck,
it.
brain? Cut it out.
That's awesome.
I guess that's the takeaway there. What the heck, brain?
What the heck, brain
Also
indeed.
hashtag relatable. Um, we'll do one more thing. We'll do one more thing. Uh, I'm gonna let you pick, Richard. I'm gonna let you pick.
Yeah, let's see. Oh, man, some of these are just so big. Like I want to talk
I know some of
about
these are
like
like 20-minute discussions, so
yeah. Haphazard and what you're choosing to learn is. Can you do that one
yeah,
concisely,
yeah,
or
that
do we
one's pretty
save?
easy.
All right.
So, so in the I think in the latest video, but also in general, I kind of like preach having a learning orientation. I don't preach it, but actually I am preaching it. I don't want to tell people what to do, but I want to put the idea in your head. um, and I think it's good to learn. But I think in my career as a YouTuber so far, I have been very all over the place in what I am choosing to learn. And I think there is a reality that I should probably start to confront a little bit more this year, which is that if you're learning all over the place, I think it. I mean, okay, I think that's fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but it means that you're not deepening your learning in certain areas, and maybe that calls into question: are you actually maintaining a learning orientation then? If you're not like if you're not because the squeeze getting past like the initial hump, I think is where things really start to get a lot harder, usually, or maybe well progress at least feels like it slows down, but when you've done that for a while it gets so satisfying. Even like you get through it and you're like, oh sweet, I made so much progress, and then you hit the mud. But if you keep slogging through the mud, after a while you're like, oh man, I went so deep in the mud. I don't know what this analogy is. um but really what I'm saying, all I'm saying is I think I need to be a little bit more focused in what I'm choosing to learn. I don't think it's enough for me to say, oh, I'm doing the right learning process things, or at least I'm trying to, and so that's enough. I think it's worthwhile to also be a little bit more deliberate there. So I've been trying to think about, okay, what are the more specifically, what are the skills that we're trying to hone this year? What's being worked on besides just things I feel like learning? Um, maybe this is uh, maybe this is more of a pragmatic thing too, because if I had all the money in the world and all the time in the world, I don't think I would care about this at all. I think haphazardly learning is perfectly fine. But since I do need to turn this into a career, I want to turn this into a career, it would behoove me to be a little bit more strategic, a little bit more pragmatic. Yeah.
Well, I wish you luck. It's just another thing in life to be intentional about.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah. It's like you got to be as intentional as you can, but you also have to accept that you can't be intentional about everything, and some stuff is just going to go wherever it goes.
Yeah, some stuff become thingos.
Some stuff become thingos indeed. Indeed. All right. Well, I think that was a good podcast. I think this is a good place to wrap. Thanks for joining me, Richard.
Of course.
Yes.
Thanks for hanging.
Yes. And thank you for joining us, viewers and listeners. If you're listening to this, you're doing great. You're already doing great. And goodbye, no. Bye.